Greetings, this is Anonymous. We are most displeased with the United Kingdom government. Despite our previous threat, the United Kingdom vision implanted victims are still not getting the help they need from the UK government. Since the United Kingdom government did not free the implanted John Duffy and the implanted English civilians, all 500 of them including 5 women, we have been forced to continue with our threat. The following is a further expose on the Western establishment's agenda to implant all of humanity. This nightshade implant broadcasts what the eyes see and what the person is currently thinking or speaking, and also what the person hears. It also has a torture part to it which can cause maximum pain and even death on the victim wherever the victim is located. This nightshade implant is part of the Western establishment's agenda to depopulate and implant the whole world. It is not the RFID implant, but instead it is the nightshade implant which is the threat to us all. Enjoyed the expose on the vision implant and all other implant agendas. We will upload more evidence soon. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Microchip mind control, implants and cybernetics. Actual 1974, congressional testimony of Drive Jose Delgado. We need a program of psychosurgery for political control of our society. The purpose is physical control of the mind. Everyone who deviates from the given norm can be surgically mutilated. The individual may think that the most important reality is his own existence, but this is only his personal point of view. This lacks historical perspective. Man does not have the right to develop his own mind. This kind of liberal orientation has great appeal. We must electrically control the brain. Someday armies and generals will be controlled by electric stimulation of the brain. Dr. Jose M. Delgado, Director of Neuropsychiatry, Yale University Medical School. Congressional Record, Number 26, Volume 118, February 24, 1974. Author of Physical Control of the Mind, 1969. The following article was originally published in the 36th year edition of the Finnish language journal, Specula, 3rd quarter, 1999. Specula is a publication of Northern Finland medical students and doctors of Oulu University OLK, Ouluan Lakatitilan Kilta. Microchip implants, mind control and cybernetics by Raunalina Lukanenkild, MD. Former Chief Medical Officer of Finland. In 1948 Norbert Wiener published a book, Cybernetics, defined as a neurological communication and control theory already in use in small circles at that time. Yoneji Masuda, father of information society, stated his concern in 1980 that our liberty is threatened Orwellian style by cybernetic technology totally unknown to most people. This technology links the brains of people via implanted microchips to satellites controlled by ground-based supercomputers. The first brain implants were surgically inserted in 1874 in the state of Ohio, USA, and also in Stockholm, Sweden. Brain electrodes were inserted into the skulls of babies in 1946 without the knowledge of their parents. In the 50s and 60s, electrical implants were inserted into the brains of animals and humans, especially in the US, during research into behavior modification, and brain and body functioning mind control, MC, methods were used in attempt to change human behavior and attitudes. Influencing brain functions became an important goal of military and intelligence services. 30 years ago, brain implants showed up in X-rays the size of 1 centimeter. Subsequent implants shrunk to the size of a grain of rice. They were made of silicon, later still of gallium arsenide. Today they are small enough to be inserted into the neck or back, and also intravenously in different parts of the body during surgical operations, with or without the consent of the subject. It is now almost impossible to detect or remove them. It is technically possible for every newborn to be injected with a microchip, which could then function to identify the person for the rest of his or her life. Such plans are secretly being discussed in the US without any public airing of the privacy issues involved. In Sweden, Prime Minister Olof Palme gave permission in 1973 to implant prisoners, and Data Inspection's ex-Director General Jan Fries revealed that nursing home patients were implanted in the mid-1980s. The technology is revealed in the 1972:47 Swedish state report Statens officiella utredningar, SOU. Implanted human beings can be followed anywhere. Their brain functions can then be remotely monitored by supercomputers and even altered through the changing of frequencies. Guinea pigs in secret experiments have included prisoners, soldiers, mental patients, handicapped children, deaf and blind people, homosexuals, single women, the elderly, school children, and any group of people considered marginal by the elite experimenters. The published experiences of prisoners in Utah State Prison, for example, are shocking to the conscience. Today's microchips operate by means of low-frequency radio waves that target them. With the help of satellites, the implanted person can be tracked anywhere on the globe. Such a technique was among a number tested in the Iraq War, according to Dr. Carl Sanders, who invented the Intelligence Manned Interface, IMI, biotic, which is injected into people. Earlier during the Vietnam War, soldiers were injected with the Rambo chip, designed to increase adrenaline flow into the bloodstream. The U.S. National Security Agency's, NSA, 20 billion bits second supercomputers could now see and hear what soldiers experience in the battlefield with a remote monitoring system, RMS. When a 5 micromillimeter microchip, the diameter of a strand of hair is 50 micromillimeters, is placed into optical nerve of the eye, it draws neuroimpulses from the brain that embody the experiences, smells, sights and voice of the implanted person. Once transferred and stored in a computer, these neuroimpulses can be projected back to the person's brain via the microchip to be re-experienced. Using a RMS, a land-based computer operator can send electromagnetic messages, encoded as signals, to the nervous system, affecting the target's performance. With RMS, healthy persons can be induced to see hallucinations and to hear voices in their heads. Every thought, reaction, hearing, and visual observation causes a certain neurological potential, spikes, and patterns in the brain and its electromagnetic fields, which can now be decoded into thoughts, pictures, and voices. Electromagnetic stimulation can therefore change a person's brainwaves and affect muscular activity, causing painful muscular cramps experienced as torture. The NSA's electronic surveillance system can simultaneously follow and handle millions of people. Each of us has a unique bioelectrical resonance frequency in the brain, just like we have unique fingerprints. With electromagnetic frequency, EMF, brain stimulation fully coded, pulsating electromagnetic signals can be sent to the brain, causing the desired voice and visual effects to be experienced by the target. This is a form of electronic warfare. US astronauts were implanted before they were sent into space so their thoughts could be followed and all their emotions could be registered 24 hours a day. The Washington Post reported in May 1995 that Prince William of Great Britain was implanted at the age of 12. Thus, if he were ever kidnapped, a radio wave with a specific frequency could be targeted to his microchip. The chip signal would be routed through a satellite to the computer screen of police headquarters, where the prince's movements could be followed. He could actually be located anywhere on the globe. The mass media have not reported that an implanted person's privacy vanishes for the rest of his or her life. He can be manipulated in many ways. Using different frequencies, the secret controller of this equipment can even change a person's emotional life. He can be made aggressive or lethargic. Sexuality can be artificially influenced. Thought signals and subconscious thinking can be read, dreams affected and even induced, all without the knowledge or consent of the implanted person. A perfect cyber soldier can thus be created. This secret technology has been used by military forces in certain NATO countries since the 1980s without civilian and academic populations having heard anything about it. Thus, little information about such invasive mind control systems is available in professional and academic journals. The NSA's signals intelligence can remotely monitor information from human brains by decoding the evoked potentials, 3.50 Hz, 5 mW, emitted by the brain. Prisoner experimentees in both Gothenburg, Sweden, and Vienna, Austria have been found to have brain lesions, diminished blood circulation and lack of oxygen in the right temporal frontal lobes result where brain implants are usually operative. A Finnish experimentee experienced brain atrophy and intermittent attacks of unconsciousness due to lack of oxygen. Mind control techniques can be used for political purposes. The goal of mind controllers today is to induce the targeted persons or groups to act against his or her own convictions and best interests. Zombified individuals can even be programmed to murder and remember nothing of their crime afterward. Alarming examples of this phenomenon can be found in the US. This silent war is being conducted against unknowing civilians and soldiers by military and intelligence agencies. Since 1980, electronic stimulation of the brain, ESB, has been secretly used to control people targeted without their knowledge or consent. All international human rights agreements forbid non-consensual manipulation of human beings even in prisons, not to speak of civilian populations. Under an initiative of U.S. Senator John Glenn, discussions commenced in January 1997 about the dangers of radiating civilian populations. Targeting people's brain functions with electromagnetic fields and beams, from helicopters and airplanes, satellites, from parked white vans, neighboring houses, telephone poles, electrical appliances, mobile phones, TV, radio, etc., is part of the radiation problem that should be addressed in democratically elected government bodies. In addition to electronic MC, chemical methods have also been developed. Mind-altering drugs and different smelling gases affecting brain function negatively can be injected into air ducts or water pipes. Also, bacteria and viruses have been tested this way in several countries. Today's super technology, connecting our brain functions via microchips, or even without them, according to the latest technology, to computers via satellites in the US or Israel, poses the gravest threat to humanity. The latest supercomputers are powerful enough to monitor the whole world's population. What will happen when people are tempted by false premises to allow microchips into their bodies? One law will be a microchip identity card. Compulsory legislation has even been secretly proposed in the U.S. to criminalize removal of an ID implant. Are we ready for the robotization of mankind and the total elimination of privacy, including freedom of thought? How many of us would want to cede our entire life, including our most secret thoughts, to Big Brother? Yet the technology exists to create a totalitarian new world order. Covert neurological communication systems are in place to counteract independent thinking and to control social and political activity on behalf of self-serving private and military interests. When our brain functions are already as connected to supercomputers by means of radio implants and microchips, it will be too late for protest. This threat can be defeated only by educating the public, using available literature on biotelemetry and information exchanged at international congresses. One reason this technology has remained a state secret is the widespread prestige of the Psychiatric Diagnostic Statistical Manual 4 produced by the U.S. American Psychiatric Association, APA, and printed in 18 languages. Psychiatrists working for U.S. intelligence agencies no doubt participated in writing and revising this manual. This psychiatric Bible covers up the secret development of MC technologies by labeling some of their effects as symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia. Victims of mind control experimentation are thus routinely diagnosed knee-jerk fashion as mentally ill by doctors who learned the DSM symptom list in medical school. Physicians have not been schooled that patients may be telling the truth when they report being targeted against their will or being used as guinea pigs for electronic, chemical and bacteriological forms of psychological warfare. Time is running out for changing the direction of military medicine and ensuring the future of human freedom. Rowney Child, MD, December 6, 2000 _ microwave mind control, modern torture and control mechanisms eliminating human rights and privacy by Dr. Rowney Lena Child, MD. September 25, 1999 Helsingin Sanomat, the largest newspaper in Scandinavia, wrote in the September 9, 1999 issue that Scientific American magazine estimates that after the millennium perhaps all people will be implanted with a DNA microchip. How many people realize what it actually means? Total loss of privacy and total outside control of the person's physical body functions, mental, emotional and thought processes, including the implanted person's subconscious and dream, for the rest of his life. It sounds like science fiction, but it is secret military and intelligence agencies' mind control technology, which has been experimented with for almost half a century. Totally without the knowledge of the general public and even the general academic population. Supercomputers in Maryland, Israel and elsewhere with a speed of over 20 billion bits sec can monitor millions of people simultaneously. In fact, the whole world population can be totally controlled by these secret brain-computer interactions, however unbelievable it sounds for the uninformed. Human thought has a speed of 5,000 bits sec, and everyone understands that our brain cannot compete with supercomputers acting via satellites, implants, local facilities, scalar or other forms of biotelemetry. Each brain has a unique set of bioelectric resonance entrainment characteristics. Remote neural monitoring systems with supercomputers can send messages through an implanted person's nervous system and affect their performance in any way desired. They can of course be tracked and identified anywhere. Neuroelectromagnetic involuntary human experimentation has been going on with the so-called vulnerable population for about 50 years, in the name of science or national security in the worst Nazi-type testing, contrary to all human rights. Physical and psychological torture of mind control victims today is like the worst horror movies. Only, unlike the horror movies, it is true. It happens today in the USA, Japan, and Europe. With few exceptions, the mass media suppresses all information about the entire topic. Mind control technology in the USA is classified under non-lethal weaponry. The name is totally misleading because the technology used is lethal, but death comes slowly in the form of normal illnesses, like cancer, leukemia, heart attacks, Alzheimer's disease with loss of short-term memory first. No wonder these illnesses have increased all over the world. When the use of electromagnetic fields, extra-low, ELF, and ultra-low, ULF, frequencies and microwaves aimed deliberately at certain individuals, groups, and even the general population to cause diseases, disorientation, chaos and physical and emotional pain breaks into the awareness of the general population, a public outcry is inevitable. Eleanor White comment, ELF-ULF frequencies on their own cannot be focused and are practically impossible to transmit in the usual manner of radio transmissions. ELF-ULF cannot carry voice. ELF-ULF can be carried on radio and ultrasound carrier signals, however, and are effective in things like setting up a target to be more receptive to hypnosis, force a target to be unable to sleep and force a target to fall asleep daytime. This is like the reverse process of reading the brain's natural ELF-ULF electrical activity using biofeedback. Who is behind a sinister plan to microchip and control and torture the general population? Eleanor White's comment, reports from persons targeted by neuroelectromagnetic experimentation show that not everyone is implanted. The fact that those few victims who have had implants removed cannot get custody of the implants means someone has a keen interest in controlling the use of covert implants and preventing the publication of this practice. The Patent Office of the USA has granted patents for purposes of mental monitoring and mind alteration. Apparatus and method for remotely monitoring and altering brainwaves, methods for inducing mental, emotional and physical states of consciousness in human beings. Method of an apparatus for desired states of consciousness are among some of them. People who have been implanted, involuntarily or through deception voluntarily, have become biological robots and guinea pigs for this activity under the guise of national security. The real consequences of microchip implantation, or with today's advanced hidden technology, using only microwave radiation for mind control, are totally hidden from the public. How many know the real dangers of microwaves through mobile phones? How many believe the disinformation that microwave radiation is not causing health problems? The economic issues in the mobile phone industry are enormous. Therefore, health issues are deliberately brushed aside. However, the same thing is inevitable in the future as with the tobacco industry. When economic compensation for health damages becomes big enough, as in the tobacco industry, health hazards will be admitted and users are then responsible for their tobacco-related illnesses. Today, already about 50% of Finns, Swedes, and Norwegians use mobile phones, especially the young population. Mobile phones used in mind control was a brilliant idea. Military and police agencies can follow every user, influence their thoughts through microwaves, cause healthy peer Plato hear voices in their heads, and if needed burn their brains in a second by increasing the current 20,000 times. That probably happened to Chechnyan leader General Dudayev, who died talking to a mobile phone. Heating effect of tissues with the speed of light is a known effect of high-power microwave and electromagnetic pulse weapons. According to Navy studies, they also cause fatigue states, depression, insomnia, aggressiveness, long and especially short-term memory loss, short catatonic states, cataracts, leukemia, cancer, heart attacks, brain tumors, and so forth. Alteration of behavior and attitudes has been demonstrated as well. Dr. Ross Adey has found out that by using 0.75 milliwatts per square centimeter intensity of pulse modulated microwave at a frequency of 450 MHz, it is possible to control all aspects of human behavior. Microwave radiation excites the hydrogen bond in the cells and can interfere with meiosis, which leads to tumors. All our emotions, moods, and thoughts have a specific brain frequency which has been catalogued. If these records fall into the wrong hands, our behavior and attitudes can be manipulated by persons whose ethics and morals are not in our best interest. Both military and intelligence agencies have been infiltrated with such persons. The director of the Swiss Secret Service had to resign in September 1999 because of his agency's involvement in illegal arms deals and a plan to create an organization within the legal Secret Service. This globally infiltrated organization has octopus-type activities in all major intelligence services in the world, working together with the mafia and terrorists. It has recruited people from all important government institutions, state and local administrations. iTown's Star Wars technology, which is used against military and civilian populations, claiming it is non-lethal weaponry. Down-and-out people, jobless, freed prisoners, mental outpatients, students and orphans are trained by this organization to harass, follow, and torture innocent people who for whatever reason have been put on the organization's hit list. They are already in every apartment block. Eleanor White comment: this gang-like color coding is not reported in all areas. Dr. Child's experience is with Northern Europe. Deception is the name of the game, so recruits are told untrue, sinister stories of their victims to keep them motivated. They have a military order and get rewarded for their evil actions, which include Satanism, and symbols, and yellow-orange-black colors. However, fresh recruits must wear pink, and the highest elite wears yellow ties with dark suits. Even dashes of yellow or orange in their ties may signal their recruitment, as well as yellow shirts or other objects with that color for signaling. Too many world leaders fit into this signaling. However, it is quite possible they are only used as fronts for this global organization without any knowledge of its criminal activity in the field against innocent people. Mass media and big industry are also infiltrated. Who are the targets? Experimentation with soldiers and prisoners may continue, as well as handicapped children, mental patients, homosexuals and single women. They are still experimental guinea pigs for electronic and chemical warfare. But today anyone can become a target, even those who invented the system. Researchers who find out about this secret radiation of the population become targets themselves. The U.S. Senate discussed the issue on January 22, 1997. The U.S. Air Force's Commando Solo aircraft have been used to send subliminal radio frequency messages to manipulate even the minds of foreign nations in their elections. Haiti and Bosnia are a couple of recent examples. In July 1994, the U.S. Department of Defense proposed the use of non-lethal weapons against anyone engaged in activities the DoD opposes. Thus opposing political views, economic competitors, counterculture individuals, and so forth can be beamed to sickness or death. The Psychiatric Diagnostic Statistical Manual, DSM, for mental disorders has been a brilliant cover-up operation in 18 languages to hide the atrocities of military and intelligence agencies' actions towards their targets. The manual lists all mind control actions as signs of paranoid schizophrenia. If a target is under surveillance with modern technology via TV, radio, telephone, loudspeakers, lasers, microwaves poisoned with mind-altering drugs via air ducts, giving familiar smells which cause headache, nausea, and so forth, if he claims his clothes are poisoned, his food or tap water as well. All medical schools teach their students that the person is paranoid, especially if he believes intelligence agencies are behind it all. Never is the medical profession told that these are routine actions all over the world by intelligence agencies against their targets. Thus, victims of mind control are falsely considered mentally ill and get no help since they are not believed, and their suffering is doubled by ignorant health professionals. The unethical abuses of power by individuals in charge of biomedical telemetry are incomprehensible to normal people. The goal of mind control is to program an individual to carry out any mission of espionage or assassination even against their will and self-preservation instinct, and to control the absolute behavior and thought patterns of the individual. The purpose of mind control is to disrupt memory, discredit people through aberrant behavior, to make them insane or to commit suicide or murder. How is it possible that this technology is not stopped by political top authorities? They themselves will also be targets someday, a fact they have not always realized. How much are they involved? This year, the 1999 European Parliament, in Resolution on Environment, Security, and Foreign Policy, in paragraphs 23, 24, and 27, calls for non-lethal weapons technology and development of new arms strategies to be covered and regulated by international conventions. Also, it calls for an international convention introducing a global ban on all developments and deployments of weapons which might enable any form of manipulation of human beings. Project HAARP in Alaska is a global concern, and calls for its legal, ecological, and ethical implications to be examined by an international independent body before any further research and testing. It is possible that the USA will ignore those resolutions. The dangers of non-lethal mind control weapons were already revealed in an expert meeting of the International Committee of the Red Cross in Geneva, in July 1994. Only increased public awareness of the microchip implants, their frightful consequences to privacy influencing of individuals' thoughts and actions, causing people to become biological robots with physical and emotional pain whenever the supercomputer technician so wishes, is enough reason to refuse to take the chip into your body for whatever reason. It is the biggest threat to humanity and the most sinister plan to enslave the human race forever. If you have a choice and want to remain a normal human being with privacy, do not have your children nor yourself implanted with a DNA microchip. Otherwise your vision, hearing, sensing, thoughts, dreams and subconscious will be influenced by an outsider, who does not have your best interests in mind. Microwave mind control with non-lethal weapons is the biggest crime in the history of mankind against the population of planet Earth. It must be stopped by all peoples of this globe.
First, they came for the writers. But I didn't speak up because I was not a writer. Then they came for the students. But But I didn't speak up because I was not a student. Then they came for musicians. But I didn't speak up because I was not a musician. And then they came for the Greens, the Muslims, the trade unionists, Christians, and the Jews, the travelers, the homosexuals, the journalists, the artists, the taggers, the doctors, the philosophers, the economists, the anarchists and the politicians, the nerds, the Europeans, the Americans, the communists, the hackers, illegals, the homeless. And I didn't speak up because I wasn't any of them. Any of them. And then they came for me. And there was no one left to speak up for me.
The proles, if only they could somehow become conscious of their own strength, would have no need to conspire. They needed only to rise up and shake themselves like a horse shaking off flies. If they chose, they could blow the party to pieces tomorrow morning. Surely sooner or later it must occur to them to do it. Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, and until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious.
Give me a breather, fuck. Ah! Ah! Ah!